I have long determined not to be frightened by fear.
Jimmy Lai has been in prison in Hong Kong for 4 years. His crime? Publishing a pro-democracy newspaper. Learn more about Jimmy Lai's fight for freedom at supportjimmylai.com.
With so many options, why choose Arizona State University?
For me, the only online option was ASU because of the quality. Their faculty was really involved with their students and care about your personal journey. The dedication to my personal development from my professors, that's been extremely valuable to me.
Earn your degree from the nation's most innovative university. Online. That's a degree better. Explore more than 300 undergraduate, graduate, and certificate programs at asuonline.asu.edu.
Now, The Hunt Palmer Show.
Yes! I feel like I've been waiting for this my entire life.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
Jolly good fun. Jolly good.
Locking down the middle of the day.
America's favorite daytime fun show.
Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio. This is Hunt Palmer.
Welcome in. Hunt Palmer coming to you from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio downtown in the capital city on this Wednesday. About half the work week in the rearview mirror. Appreciate you hanging out with us here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Got Jacob back and Cassie Spazzali back there on the ones and twos, and a lot to do over the next couple of hours as per usual. JD PicKell, host of the Hard Count on 3, is going to be with us in 15 minutes breaking down the college football playoff, which cranks up tomorrow. It's a What If Wednesday for the first time. Well, we haven't been here on a Wednesday in 3 weeks, so it's been a minute since we did a What If Wednesday. We'll get into some of those. Matthew Bruni is going to be with us 1 hour from right now to talk some basketball. You can imagine how that conversation is going to go. Saints candidates continue to emerge. Got an NFL mock draft that includes Will Campbell, and Saints coaching search continues to cycle through names that reportedly will get an interview. So lots and lots to do. Thanks for locking us in. We start the same way we do each and every day, and that's with our Genesis opening drive.
It's time for Hunt's opening drive, presented by Genesis of Baton Rouge.
Well, if you were going to ask the SEC schedule makers to get you started, and you had to play one at home, and you had to play one on the road, I would suggest that playing Vanderbilt on your home floor on a Saturday afternoon and then traveling to Missouri for a late tip on a Tuesday in an ice storm is about as good as you could draw. And LSU sits here at 0-2, and they have not been real competitive late in either of these basketball games, and that is a massive concern. LSU goes to Columbia last night and loses 83-67. That looks like a sizable margin, 16 points. It was worse than that. It was 19 at 2 different times. No, check that, 3 different times in the first half, and LSU never truly threatened in the second half. They got it down to 13, had a possession to cut it to 10. Is cutting it to 10 making it a competitive ball game? I would consider no. Last night, when I watched that basketball game, I don't believe LSU was competitive at all. And it really started right out of the gate because LSU comes out, and you just have to look at the way the possessions materialize when LSU's got the ball versus when Missouri's got the ball. LSU once again turned the basketball over 4 times in their first 7 possessions. LSU once again could not get down the floor and get a shot in the air in the first half. Against Vanderbilt, they turned it over 11 times in the first half. In this game against Missouri, they turned it over 10 times in the first half. Every dribble was contested by Missouri. Every pass seemed contested by Missouri. You had LSU guys getting up under the goal and having nowhere to throw the basketball. You had LSU throwing the ball out of bounds. You had LSU bouncing the ball off their foot. It was just a comedy of errors that were aided by the fact that Missouri laced up their tennis shoes, their basketball shoes, their sneakers, whatever you want to call it, and guarded LSU, and LSU had no answer for it. And then you go to the other side of the floor. And Missouri got where they wanted to get. What did we say yesterday? The identity of Missouri basketball. They make more free throws than anybody in the country. So what did they do in the first half? Well, they hammered away at LSU. They drew 12 personal fouls, including 3 on Jordan Sears and 3 on Victorious Miller. 2 on Corey Chest, and they got to the free throw line for 13 attempts in the first half. That almost doubled up LSU. So for the second game in a row, you let a team go right to its playbook. Vanderbilt turns teams over a ton. LSU obliged by just turning it over left and right. Missouri gets to the foul line. I said the key was going to be LSU's perimeter defense and keeping Missouri away from the rim. Couldn't do it. Foul, 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 foul. And you compounded the poor play with foolish play. Matt McMahon left Jordan Sears in the ballgame, his fifth-year senior point guard, with 2 personal fouls. And that's a reasonable thing to do when you're trailing by as many as LSU was. They got down 19 points. You need your guys out there that have been scoring for you all year. But Jordan Sears has to know, with 2 fouls late in the first half, you can't reach in on a dig and slap the Missouri guy on the arm and pick up your 3rd foul on a cheap one. Victorious Miller got a 3rd foul, but at least he was driving to the rim and finished the play. They called him for his shoulder. Okay, it's a freshman trying to make a play. You're down a ton of points. You can't make a foolish play on top of all the bad play. And LSU had plenty of that. Now, for the second game in a row, LSU kind of cleaned things up in the second half from a turnover perspective. LSU only turned the ball over in the second half 4 times, but the damage was done. You were already out of the game. And Sears made another foolish play in the second half when he just hauled off and shoved his counterpart Anthony Robinson, for his 4th foul. But there's just a lot more at play here than, well, LSU's 0-2 in league play. Well, they turned the ball over in the first half. Well, they got beat. When you look at the 2 games that LSU has played against bottom-level teams in this league, and that's what they are. Missouri got hammered by Auburn in the game that they didn't play LSU, and Vanderbilt got hammered by Mississippi State on their home floor last night. These are bottom half of the SEC, bottom tier of the SEC teams, and LSU has been hammered in both of those games. Now, we already knew that if Cam Carter and Jordan Sears didn't shoulder a heavy scoring load, that LSU was going to be in trouble. And last night, Jordan Sears had his worst game as a Tiger because of foul trouble and probably a coach's decision in the second half. He only played 11 minutes. He went 1 of 3 from the floor, had 4 fouls, 2 turnovers, and no assists. That's a no-show. And Cam Carter didn't really have it. He was 5 of 15. He made all 5 of his free throws, but he was 1 of 5 from deep. He turned the ball over 3 times. He had 16 points, but it was an ugly 16 points. And those 2 guys didn't show up. And Victorious Miller, who was kind of your other backcourt scoring option in the non-conference against those terrible teams, has been overmatched in the first 2 games. And that's okay. That's not his fault. But this LSU team, from a talent perspective and from an execution perspective through 2 games, is not even close to the rest of this basketball league. Not even close. Now, I know that most LSU fans, most at this point, are either completely apathetic or have turned the page on this basketball team and potentially basketball program after 2 games. That's the way this sport works around here, and I know that, and that's fine. I'm not going to completely stop talking about them, and y'all know this since the first day I sat in this chair on this microphone. I am never, while I catch checks from LSU in the fall for doing the pre- and post-game for football, going to sit here and call for any coach on campus to get fired. Not going to happen on this show. It's never going to happen. I'm going to analyze the situation, and I just told you that LSU is not even close right now to the rest of this league. And I believe that. But here's what I'm going to tell you. I think LSU is in for a very, 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 very long 16 more games. If I had to suggest how many I thought that LSU would win over the next 16 games, I would tell you somewhere in the neighborhood of 2. That's what I think. And if that happens, it will be massively disappointing. However, I sat here at Christmas of last year after I'd watched LSU get trucked by Kansas State and trucked by Syracuse and trucked by Texas with no point guard play. And I said, look at this league. LSU's got no chance. I don't think they're going to win 3 games. And LSU won 9. Matt McMahon found a way. He got his team playing better basketball, and they figured it out. I'm telling you right now, I don't think that's going to happen. But I'm willing to watch. Right now, they are not even close. I think they're low on talent. I think the loss of Jalen Reed has been crippling to a front court that has no scoring ability. I was counting on Tyrell Ward to come in and shoot 40% from the three-point line and add some length. I was counting on Mike Williams to take a step up in his sophomore season after a nice freshman year where he shot nearly 40% from three in SEC play, and he took care of the basketball pretty well, and I thought, well, that's another guy that can run the point. He didn't get off the bench last night until two of their guards had 3 fouls. So I don't know what happened there. There are a lot of things that have transpired over the course of the last 2 months that have led LSU to where they are right now. And where they are right now is not competitive. So you either figure something out and play way better than you did, or you're going to get trucked in this league. This is still a team that handled Florida State in Baton Rouge. Florida State's not great. There's still a team that went to Kansas State, although they had Jalen Reed that night, and controlled that game. Kansas State's not great, but it's a Power 5 team. Still a team that beat Central Florida. Again, the Jalen Reed loss is big, and I'm not making excuses. I've already told you I think they're going to go 2-16. That's what I think they're going to do. But I'm going to sit here and watch before I throw the entire program in the dumpster. I'll evaluate it when it's all over. And I realize that sounds like Joe Oliva in 2015. That's not exactly a great memory. And I'm completely frustrated and honestly massively disappointed at what I've watched the last 2 games. But I did sit here and tell you all of December, this is going to be bumpy. And I told you all December, I think they're one of the 4 or 5 lowest talent level teams in the SEC. They're going to have to figure something out in a hurry, or this is going to go completely off the rails. I'm already writing off Auburn and Tennessee and really Florida. Mississippi State's gaining on that. There are some other teams in this league that you should be able to play with. You haven't through 2 games, but that's going to happen to everybody. Tennessee went on the road last night and no-showed. I'm going to assess 18 games instead of 2. But I'll tell you right now, after 2, not good. Really not good. Beck, you watched a little bit of that game last night. Those are my thoughts. You got anything to add to that?
Man, it's just like you mentioned about last year about before the SEC started and you know all those bad losses they had in non-conference, and it was almost the inverse this year where their non-conference was actually good. So you go in and you think maybe they can start well, and they've done the opposite of last year. Last year they won the first 3 of 4. They won the road and beat A&M, and they beat Vanderbilt, lost to Auburn, and then beat Ole Miss at home. So the outlook is bleak. There's no question about it. But it just doesn't feel like they have the depth that they had last year, which is interesting to say because last year Jordan Wright was their main scoring guard, and they had some other guys like Mike Williams come in and maybe supplant that a little bit. But you thought going into the SEC that you've got 2 guys that should be able to score in the SEC with Sears and Carter, and they've just had off nights and it hasn't looked good. And so like we said, if they cannot score, you have a serious problem. And then you compound that with losing Tyrell Ward, you losing Jalen Reed, and that is not a recipe for success. And I worry, and I don't think that it's going to be. I don't feel as down for some reason. I don't feel like 2 wins. I can't see this team not winning at least 3 or 4, which is not saying obviously not saying much. It's saying very little. But I think this team will get better.
There may have been a cruel trick that got played on us here, and here's the deal: they scheduled Kansas State, who, when we think of Kansas State, you think of the Elite 8 team from 2 years ago. They were in the NIT last year. And Kansas State, went on the road last night and got smashed by Oklahoma State, and they're a 7-7 team. And then you had Florida State come in, and you look at, there's, that's a famous coach right there. That's a team that's had a great run with Leonard Hamilton over the last 15 years. And it's a 10-4 team that's not great. And then all of a sudden, I thought Pitt was pretty damn good. Pitt played Mississippi State and lost by almost 40. And they went to Cameron last night and got wiped off the floor, which is going to happen. But, like, they may not be great. And then Central Florida's, and so maybe you planted the perfect 3 or 4 non-conference games to make us go, well, that's probably a good team. We don't really know because everybody's got all transfers this year. So, I mean, you can't really assess college basketball in September. You don't know who anybody has because everybody just got all transfers. But it looks like, well, this looks pretty good. And you don't know how much of it is the competition, how much of it is Jalen Reed. I don't know. I'm willing to give Matt McMahon a chance to coach his way out of this.
Yeah.
I'm looking at SEC teams every night, and I'm looking at LSU, and I'm going, these don't look the same.
And now thinking about it, like we had Drew King on for that covers Missouri, and we asked him what happened last year to Missouri, and he mentioned some injuries. He mentioned some transfers not panning out. This almost seems like we're headed down that road potentially for LSU with some transfers that aren't seemingly going to maybe pan out as much as we were hoping for, and some injuries.
And the bummer of the whole thing, and I'm not going to do this every game. I'm not going to do this every game. No. But the bummer of the whole thing is you can't even look at young players and go, well, he might pan out. Well, he might, because there's no guarantee that they play 2 or 3 years. In fact, the guarantee is almost that they won't play 3 years.
Yeah, it's like
at your school.
How could you ever? After finishing the season last year, how could you? I mean, you would have thought almost for certain that a guy like Tyrell Ward and a guy like Mike Williams, who had good freshman seasons last year, they came back. They didn't leave. So you're like, okay, they're coming back. These guys are going to be contributors. No.
And then you lose Jalen Reed. I mean, and it's I'm watching Curtis Givens last night be assertive. He knocked down 2 second-half threes. He had a really nice drive and finish on a reverse in the first half. And I'm going, man, like that, he's grown up a little bit. He looks way different than he did in November. And then I'm looking there going, Curtis Givens might play for Utah next year. Like, how am I supposed to know? Maybe he plays for maybe he loves it at LSU. Maybe he's Imwani Wilkinson, who just never left LSU despite coaching changes and bad seasons and probations and all kinds of stuff that was thrown at. And he just wanted, and I don't know anything about Curtis Givens, but I can't sit there and say that he's a building block for the program. He's just on this team. So it's just a bummer. I love LSU basketball. I love watching them play basketball. And the last 72 hours have just been a disaster. And that's 2 of the 16 games that I could have told you for certain that 2 of the 16 games were going to be a disaster. Like, that was beyond question. It just didn't need to be the first 2. And here you are. So they have to win one of the next 2. They're at Ole Miss on Saturday. I don't see them winning there, obviously. And they're home against Arkansas, who I think's got a little bit of talent. I don't think Cal can coach at all. But they've got some dudes. So we'll see. But it's not a good start. So that's where we are. That's our Genesis opening drive here on this Wednesday. We'll talk to JD PicKell coming up next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Highland Insurance Group, HighlandIG.com. You're looking for group employee benefits for your business. That's a big, big deal. It's a big, big deal in recruiting talent to come work for you. It's a big, big deal in maintaining the talent that you have. You want to make sure that your employees are taken care of from a benefits and health insurance perspective, and the Highland Insurance Group is happy to help you do that. I know I worked in insurance and my wife's in healthcare, and we can both look at a healthcare plan and have trouble deciphering exactly what it looks like. It's just a complicated thing. If you would rather just run your business and have someone that you trust handle those benefits, handle that health insurance for your employees, call the Highland Insurance Group. They're happy to do that for you. They've got a phenomenal team over there. They're right here in Baton Rouge. If you're anywhere in the state of Louisiana, they are absolutely happy to help you. Call Jonathan Carver and his team. They're great. I'm looking forward to my conversations with them next week. I'm headed over to Highland Insurance Group to chat with them for the first time in a little bit, and looking very much forward to that. They're great people, and they do great, great work here in Baton Rouge. So in the new year, if you're looking at health insurance benefits for your company and would like a fresh set of eyes, the Highland Insurance Group is happy to help you with that. Check them out online at HighlandIG.com, HighlandIG.com.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
Every Wednesday, we chat with our guy, JD PicKell, host of The Hard Count on the On3 YouTube channel. Subscribe up to that YouTube channel. Get all your college football all year round. This is the best time of year for college football for those that are still standing. Just 4 of them, and we're certainly going to talk about it with our guy. JD, Happy New Year. How are you?
Doing phenomenal, man. It's wild. We only got 3 games left here. Like we are staring down the barrel here of the end of the longest college football season in history, but juiced up, man, as I know you are as well. So appreciate you having me back on here.
What's the best thing been so far about the college football playoff?
The best thing so far? That's a really good question. To me, I think that it was pretty special for, I think, the casual fan who only tunes into the postseason of college football, only the big games of college football. A lot of those viewers would have typically only seen, the controlled environments in the indoor stadiums and, kind of the more corporate setting. This is kind of probably a popular answer, but I think for everyone getting to have the maximum exposure to an on-campus college football game and seeing what that looks like in a playoff setting, I think that was super cool. That was just a fun thing to kind of show to the rest of the sports world and the NFL crowd and the March Madness crowd and folks who wouldn't usually be as dialed into college football to actually show them hey, this is what the sport is on a maximum exposure level. That was pretty cool.
I'm completely with you. I am not at all turned off by the fact that Clemson couldn't compete with Texas and Tennessee got smoked in Columbus. That doesn't bother me at all because I don't think that's going to happen every year. It will happen some. It happens in the NFL playoffs sometimes. But I think that is to me been the best part of this whole thing. Obviously, the Peach Bowl was a ton of fun, and we'll talk about that here in a second. But I'm with you on the fact that these settings in December under the lights with brands that don't necessarily meet up all that often in those environments. Just thinking about what Tuscaloosa or Tiger Stadium or the Big House or even the Coliseum or wherever would look like in that setting, I think is really cool for the future of the sport. I just don't care right now that this one year produced some blowouts. They may happen, but they happen in the 14 playoff too.
Yeah, I think the thing that's encouraging to me too is wherever we're at right now, because I was that guy, where I was like, okay, I'm cool with the logic we decided here when it comes to these teams. I get it. Would I have preferred seeing South Carolina in here? 100%. Do I think hypothetically, which is, such a buzzword right now, and you get absolutely hammered if you used it in the sports media sense, but do I think hypothetically South Carolina could have given a better game to Penn State than SMU? Yeah, probably. But again, I'm cool with the teams that they chose because I think the logic was sound. But to the point I was making, we're not even at the final resting place for this thing. We're about to shake the snow globe here, and in 2 years have, I don't know if it'll be drastically different format, but it'll be a different format. I would expect the Big Ten and the SEC to probably throw their weight around and get some more auto bids. I would expect us to have some more teams. So even if you are in the camp of hey, I'm not crazy about how this looks right now. We're in a version, what is this? I guess 2.0 for college football playoff if you count the 14. But there's still a long way to go here before we have this machine where we want it to go.
What happened with Oregon?
Yeah, how much time do you have, huh? We got an hour to kill here.
We don't.
I think there's 2 big things. The first is Ohio State is a buzzsaw, and I think we can look at Michigan and say that was the heartbreak arc for them. They were embarrassed. It was, the catastrophe of all catastrophes, and they played with a different edge, different purpose, which is cliche, hard to quantify, but I think that's real. The other big thing, and nobody wants to point to this because it sounds like an excuse, because it kind of is, I think that the marriage between how well Ohio State is playing and how hot they are and how talented they are playing to their ceiling, paired with Oregon having 24 days, 23 days, whatever it was, off, and then having to jump in cold and play Ohio State. I'm not saying they still shouldn't have played better. I'm not saying that excuses anything, but I do wonder a little bit how much Oregon having to ramp it up against the team that was a buzzsaw in Ohio State, how much that impacted them. So there's a lot of other things you could point to. I think that the secondary bully Oregon's wide receivers. I think Jeremiah Smith being prioritized, always prioritized, we've all seen is just the game changer of all game changers. But those 2 things to me, Ohio State being able to get their revenge and Oregon's time off, having to ramp back up against that team, I think those are the 2 things that I point to.
Let's move to the semis starting up tomorrow in the Orange Bowl down on South Beach. Penn State and Notre Dame. Can Notre Dame win this game with Riley Leonard throwing for 110 yards?
The compliment on our show is it's kind of like my 2-month-old and her swaddle. Like I go to bed, wrap her up tight, put her in the bassinet, and she's going to find a way out of that thing come morning time. I don't know how it's going to happen. I don't know what it's going to look like. It may not be the prettiest. There's going to be some grunting involved. There might be some spit up involved, but by 7 a.m. the next morning, she will have found her arms outside of that swaddle. I think that's Riley Leonard, man. I think that's the Notre Dame team. I did a segment today on the top 10 players in the game. Hunt, for me, 7 of those guys were on Penn State, and I'm still picking Notre Dame. So I think they find a way. I think the stat line's ugly. I have 26-21 for the Irish in Miami.
Would this Notre Dame team have been able to stand up with, I don't mean to toss them into the 19 Burrow LSU team, but of that era, you had the Trevor Lawrence Clemson teams, you had the Tua and Mac Jones Alabama teams, you had those Ohio State teams that were setting passing records. Could they have stood up to those teams with this style of play? Is their defense that good? Or is this just a sense that the college football has kind of regressed in terms of the firepower, maybe outside of Ohio State?
Yeah, it's a fair question. I think the 2019 LSU is just tough to comp with anybody just because of how ridiculous they are, and we see what the NFL, translation has been there. But I really do think that Notre Dame, especially on the back end, they didn't have their best corner in Ben Morrison playing. I think they really are that good. Now, would I like them in a game against Ohio State in a couple of days here if they were to beat Penn State? I don't know if I feel that confident, but legitimately, they play so well complementary, and their secondary has been phenomenal, and then they've done a great job being aggressive. So I don't know if it's something that I would point to a future college football head coach and say, hey, this is how you dial up. You should be this aggressive defensively. But if it works for them and they have the personnel to play that much man on the back end, do it at a high level, more power to you. So some of it's matchups probably for them with who they've had to play so far. I don't think they've played anybody that's been able to take advantage of how much man coverage and pressure they bring. I don't think Penn State will be able to do that either. But to answer your question, I just think Notre Dame's that good on the back end.
What's your confidence level in Drew Allar against that back end?
To me, watching him at the end of the first half against Boise State, and Boise State, I don't want to, blow out of proportion how much we should take from that game, but he threw a couple of seeds, dude.
Yeah.
He had one to Harrison Wallace that got dropped. He had one to Tyler Ward he didn't come down with. And I left that snapshot being like, hey, this dude actually was never the problem. Does he have his fair share of blame? Sure. But I think he's good enough to allow Notre Dame, or Penn State rather, to find a way to score against Notre Dame. The thing that I'm curious about is I don't have any confidence in anyone not named Tyler Warren with a sweet bucket of lettuce wearing number 44 to separate. So he's good enough. His receivers are not.
All right, let's transition over to Texas and Ohio State. If you're the Texas defensive staff, where do you start?
Have you ever seen Endgame, Hunt? I'm not a big Marvel guy, but I know that was. You ever see that?
I'm not. Thanos. Everyone knows I've never seen any movies, and certainly no comic movies.
Okay. Well, that's no big deal. There's a scene that I'll walk it out for you where, essentially, Thanos, the villain in this story, is talking to, I guess it's his daughter. Bottom line, she asked him a question. Hey, did you? I'm even forgetting how it goes. Basically, the question I'm asking here this is a horrible segment. I'm just wandering through here, Hunt. For Texas, can you stop Jeremiah Smith? Is the question we're asking. You say, yeah. What did it cost you? Everything. If you hold Jeremiah Smith to 67 yards, going back to the wonky Marvel quote I just walked through there, if you hold him to 67 yards, who else is gashing you? Because I don't think you're doing it with one man. I love Jahdae Barron, Jim Thorpe Award winner for Texas. But you're not taking away Jeremiah Smith with one dude. Are you doing it with two? Are you doing it with shifting your whole defense towards him? Any way you slice this, if you're going to hold Jeremiah Smith to a pedestrian day, you're giving up something. And I think that is too lethal with this Ohio State offense and how many weapons they have and the level that Will Howard's playing at right now. So you have to try and cut it off at the root of the problem and get to Will Howard to be my guess. Can you apply pressure and be exotic enough to throw him off his base? We've seen him struggle at times with pressure, but short of that, it's never really been about Ohio State's ceiling to us, Hunt. I think it's been all about their floor, and we've seen their floor with what it was against Michigan. I don't think they're returning there, and I don't trust Texas to score with them. So that's a really roundabout, really awkward way to tell you Jeremiah Smith is going to make a difference, whether he gets the ball or not.
You like Ohio State minus the 5.5?
Give it to me. It sounds disrespectful, but I'll take -5.5. I'll take it up to 6.5. We're being honest here.
I think that the whole public's on that, which gives me a weird feeling, but I get why. They've been unbelievable the last 2 ball games. So enjoy the football. We'll talk about it. Talk about a final next week.
Yeah, I'll go rewatch that movie for us, and we'll circle back on these quotes. Appreciate you, Hunt. Go Tigers.
JD PicKell is the hard count on the On3 YouTube channel. Subscribe up and get him here every single Wednesday. I'm excited to watch the games. Do I feel like Ohio State's the prohibitive favorite? Yeah. Do I think there are some teams that have some talent that may be able to run with them? Maybe. We'll just have to see. Looking forward to checking it all out. It's What If Wednesday coming up next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Genesis of Baton Rouge, genesisofbatonrouge.com. Every Genesis that's on the lot is online at genesisofbatonrouge.com. I was actually playing around on genesisofbatonrouge.com yesterday, just kind of looking at the new makes and the new models, and they're all out for the 2025 year. Go check them out. They're so sleek looking, so stylish. And I've sat behind the wheel of a few of them, and they're incredibly comfortable as well. If you'd like to test drive one, you don't have to go to the lot at Airline and PQ. I tell you that a couple times a week. It's so convenient. They'll come to you. You're at work. You're at home. No matter what the case may be, one of their brand ambassadors happy to drive right up to you, get you behind the wheel, and take it for a spin. Just take advantage of that. That doesn't cost anything. And see the difference when you drive a Genesis. Then once you purchase that Genesis, you'll see the real difference. 10-year, 100,000-mile warranty, 3 years of complimentary maintenance, 3 years of complimentary maintenance, and it's valet, meaning they'll come to you to get the maintenance done as well. It's all there at Genesis of Baton Rouge. Airline at PQ across from Women's Hospital. Genesis of Baton Rouge, genesisofbatonrouge.com.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
Matthew Bruni in 25 minutes talking LSU hoops. Still got to talk about Ryan Ramczyk, who will retire and clear some room for the New Orleans Saints in the salary cap. Saints coaching searches coming up as well, so we'll do some of that in the second hour. I'm excited for this next segment. We're going to do What If Wednesday. I'm hopeful that this first time in the new year, how do I put this, that Mrs. Beck does not attempt to do significant emotional harm to many of our listeners of the...
No, She sent me a few. I don't think they're going to hurt anyone's feelings.
Okay, good. Let's make sure we don't do that. It's What If Wednesday.
Time, space, reality. It's more than a linear path. Where a single choice can branch out into infinite realities. Follow me and ponder the question. What if?
All right, first one here. What if Notre Dame wins the national championship?
Oh, man. That's just going to start a grease fire on the internet with the Brian Kelly people and the Marcus Freeman people and the Notre Dame people barking at LSU. I got to be really honest with you about this, and I think that I'm potentially in the minority here. Maybe the minority is more vocal here, and that happens quite often on the internet. I don't give a rip if Notre Dame wins the national title, and I don't believe that would suggest that Brian Kelly has no chance to win at LSU. I don't think those two are related. I think the jobs are different. I think the eras are different. I just think the whole thing is different. So I'm more concerned with what Brian Kelly's actually doing at LSU as opposed to what he did at Notre Dame in 2013. That's kind of where I sit on the whole thing. So if Notre Dame wins the national title, I'll be bummed because I don't like their elitist thing. I don't like the fact that we have to cater to all the conferences, and Notre Dame. I think they should have to be in a conference. I don't think they should make their own schedule. I think they should play by the rules everybody else plays with. It's not 1978 anymore where they're the only ones on NBC or whatever the case may be. I think that they should play by everybody else's rules, so I don't like them for that reason. But I don't think it has anything to do with Brian Kelly at LSU. I think that's a completely false narrative, and I don't care about it at all.
Yeah, I agree with you. And Like, do people not think that if Brian Kelly was still at Notre Dame, they wouldn't be in the playoffs? Like, I'm pretty sure they would, because their schedule is always really easy, and they should be in this playoff every year unless they start playing tougher.
They would be in the playoff with Brian Kelly, considering what Florida State and Southern Cal put on the field.
Yeah, yes.
Like that's. I mean, they might have lost at A&M. They probably wouldn't have. They might have, and they probably would not have lost to Northern Illinois because there's no evidence that he would have lost that game. So yeah, they probably would have gotten in with him anyway.
All right, next one. What if the Cincinnati Bengals had made the playoffs?
They'd be a nightmare, but their defense stinks. And there's just too many losses with Joe and Jamar healthy for me to completely sweep under the rug. Yes, they won their last 4, I think it was, maybe last 5. And of course, that just napalms their draft position, but they did make a change of defensive coordinator. Defense wasn't good enough outside of Hendrickson. That's true. They didn't replace Bates at safety as well as they should have, and they just weren't good enough. So there it is.
All right, next one. This one's a bit topical. What if LSU basketball goes 3-15 in conference play?
That's a disaster. To go 3-15 in year 3 of this coaching staff, when you look at what's going on at some of the other places in year 3, namely Gainesville, Florida, that's a disaster. But they're not there. If they do that, you've got a real problem. But the issue, the other piece to it is that this year's team doesn't have any bearing on next year's team. And that's the difference between this and 10 years ago. If you would look at a program that goes 2-16, 9-9, 3-15, you have no reason to believe you could possibly come out of that. But you realize that next year's team has really no bearing on what this team is. It's just what team do you assemble for the next year. It's not a program, it's team to team. So it's different. The discussion would be different than it was, but you would have to really take a hard look at that and go, what are we doing here?
All right, next one. You kind of talk about this with your top 5 LSU things that are going to happen in 2025. What if you could retire LSU numbers today?
Oh, I could do that. Dorsey would go right up. Kevin Falk would go right up. Dylan Cruz would go right up. Those for sure the top 3 that come to my mind. I can't think of another women's basketball, though Angel Reese I think is going to get there.
Yeah.
That's probably next there. I could start to rip off some other LSU players. And I could certainly think of Paul Skeens as well, and Aaron Nola as well. But I think the first 3 that come to my mind are Kevin Falk, Glenn Dorsey, and Dylan Cruz.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know, man. Who else could even maybe Leonard Fournette? It's still early, but...
Oh, I didn't say Burrow.
Well,
I didn't say Burrow and Daniels.
No, okay, we know Burrow and Daniels, but it's still really early. I don't know if we're going to talk about people that you would do right now.
That's one of those things that happens on live radio. How many people in their car just screamed at the dashboard, Joe Burrow and Jaden Daniels?
It makes sense, though, because we're talking about today. Like, I mean, I guess
those guys just got off the field, too. That's my bad. Hand up. Joe and Jaden, obviously. I think the Heisman just made me file those guys away and just not even... Because it's going to happen, because the Heisman Trophy is guaranteed it's going to happen, I think it slipped my mind. But I do apologize to those of you who just wrecked your vehicles because I didn't say Joe Burrow first. That one's on me. I'm going to wear that one.
All right, next one. What if you had to put together a guaranteed TGL team?
A Tuesday Night Golf League team?
Oh man.
So Will Lee is in Salesforce. He played college golf.
Yeah.
So he's going to be on the squad. We lost Jared Wilson. He's a pretty good player. I'm going to play because I'd like to play on the team. Sounds fun. Beck, are you going to volunteer your services?
No way. There's got to be at least one more person that's better than me. I'm not.
Gordy
bad.
Can play a little bit, so we'll take Gordy. TJ's okay. Here's what I'd like to do. Can we take Flynn Foster, the owner's son, who is Scratch? He doesn't work here, but he's got some interest.
I don't think so. I don't think we can do that. They gotta be employed here.
If the Jets ownership group's son can play Xbox and make fantasy moves, I should be able to take take Flynn's kids and play on the team.
That is a fair point.
I do think we're going to struggle to beat like Shane Lowry and Wyndham Clark that squad.
Let's think about. Well, I guess we don't really know, but I mean, I would say that we're going to be in like a league with other companies in Baton Rouge or something. We'd probably be pretty good in that.
Matt can't play because Matt has made the decision to play from the wrong side of the golf ball. He's left-handed and plays right-handed, which is a poor decision by him. So he's out for sure. T-Bob, he's out. Hester, I think, played Torrey Pines one time, but he's out. So we're getting low on numbers. Beck, you might have to be called in.
Okay, I guess if I have to.
What can we use you for? What's the strength of your game?
I'm not a bad putter.
That's great.
Decent in inside 100 yards, I guess.
Okay.
So I think I can go there.
That's where there's a scoring clubs. Beck.
Yeah,
that's what we need.
That's what we need. All right, next one. What if the Saints draft Jalen Milroe?
Oh God. Moscona's gonna blow a gasket. He may faint on the air. If we're at like Don Juan, when they do that, he might go into like cardiac arrest. But there are some tantalizing tools, but I just can't get on board with it. It's just too many turnovers, too many misfires. But dude, he can run like crazy. And I'm watching Lamar run around, I'm watching Jaden run around, and I watch Kyler run around a little bit, and I watch Josh Allen run around, and there's some tantalizing stuff there, but I can't endorse it. Maybe it's just because I watched him play LSU for 2 years and go nuts.
All right, we got some for my wife here. They're not gonna hurt anyone's feelings.
All right, good. Rapid fire.
First one: what if Joe Burrow was a professional athlete in a different sport? What sport and position would he play?
He was a bucket in high school basketball. And I don't think he plays golf, so
I think it'd be basketball.
I think it's got to be
decent size. Maybe it'd be like a shooting guard.
Had some thing in fall camp where they were playing horse, and he was stroking jump shots there too. So it's got to be hoops.
All right, and then what if Zion Williamson had never gotten hurt and played every game?
That is truly a what if there. That is some kind of what if. The Pelicans would have won more games. They probably would have
would have made the playoffs a few times.
They would have made the playoffs quite a few times. They would have been out of the play-in a couple times too. Unfortunately,
a couple of all-star teams.
That hasn't happened since he blew that shoe out in Cameron. It just hadn't gone great. But up until then, he was a freight train. So that's not bad.
Not bad. Yeah, that's it.
All right, that's it for What If Wednesday. Appreciate Mrs. Beck for keeping the dreams of our youth alive and for contributing some in the segment to What If Wednesday. We'll come back and close out hour number 1 coming up next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Audio Video Security Solutions, avssla.com is the website. The spring's coming. I know a lot of y'all. I just saw T-Bob in the hall, and I know for a fact that he loves to sit at their outdoor area while the kiddos play and listen to some LSU baseball. I know that a lot of folks get into the pool come springtime or want to spend some time out in the backyard when the weather's nice. If you'd like to have a television mounted outside, if you'd like to have some awesome audio systems put in outdoors so that you don't have to stream off your phone or carry the Bluetooth speaker out there, just get Audio Video Security Solutions to come out and hook you up with some outdoor audio equipment. They do the installation, they provide all of the equipment, and the customer service after the installation is fantastic. Mitchell Fisher and his team are awesome here in Baton Rouge. They have done a lot of work for us at the Palmer House, and one of the things I love to do is give you Mitchell Fisher's cell phone number. It's not some sort of call center, not going to go to a recording, so they may get back to you on a voice. This is Mitchell Fisher's cell. He's the owner of the company. 225-439-7920. 225-439-7920. I always invite you to check them out online at avssla.com. That's Audio Video Security Solutions. avssla.com.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
All right, wrapping up hour number 1 here. Y'all know my thoughts on Live Golf. I despise Live Golf. I'm disappointed in all the people that took all the cash to break golf in two. I despise Greg Norman and all that he stands for. And I do not like the current state of professional golf. Y'all are well aware of that. And you don't really care that much, but it is a sports show, so we bring it up. Golf tried something new last night on ESPN. The TGL, the Tuesday Night Golf League. Rory McIlroy, Tiger Woods kind of put this together. It's on a simulator. It's a team game. It moves quickly. I only watched during halftime of LSU's atrocious performance in Columbia, but Beck, you took a look at the TGL. Is there a future for the TGL?
Oh my gosh. So for some reason I was putting the TV on and I wanted to put in the LSU game and it said it didn't start till 8:15. I don't know why.
It was like 8:10.
Okay, so this TGL thing started at 8. So I was like, I'll watch the beginning of this. I'll watch like the first 20 minutes and I'll flip over to LSU. And so I'm watching it as the broadcast is starting, and they pan into this, crowd where there's like these people sitting in stands cheering and all this, and then they have this announcer that's announcing the names of the golfers and their accolades before they walk in, like it's a wrestling contest.
Okay.
And it's just like, immediately my thought is, man, this is really cheesy. Like these guys are golfers. Like, they're not wrestlers. They're not going to be running out from the tunnel with
into the ropes.
Yeah, they're not. This is just really hokey and cheesy. And okay, but after they start actually playing golf, it was pretty cool. I like the best part to me is that they can play on these courses that aren't real, and they can design holes like really, really, really crazily
with water all over the place.
Yeah, and there's like 4 different fairways you can hit to, like in the middle or the outside, and so that's pretty cool. But I don't know, man. It doesn't seem like it's going to be anything, that's going to really just boost the popularity of golf in like the younger demographic.
I would tend to agree. It seemed a little bit forced to me. Like, I watched a little bit of it. I wasn't compelled to watch a ton more. I like golf simulators to hit in myself. Do I need to watch Shane Lowry and Wyndham Clark hit into a simulator and then get up on the green and putt and hammer and bet and double the bet and play match play? I don't know. I'm struggling with the fact that for 75 years we just played sports, and now we have to change all the rules in all the sports. I know they changed to a 3-point line at some point. I know they lowered the mound at some point for Bob Gibson. I know they've always tinkered with the rules. So that's not new, but like these massively new concepts that we're coming up with just because young people are addicted to phones and iPads and don't watch sports at the rate they used to. I think a lot of it is just so forced to me. In fact, we always just have to kowtow to all this all the time. It just doesn't have me. And they're not trying to get me. College football's got me. The major leagues have gotten me. And golf I'm going to watch golf. I don't need to watch the TGL, and I certainly don't need to watch live golf. Like we have to do so much different than just go play the sport. And I struggle with that sometimes as someone who doesn't need all the bells and whistles. I guess I need someone that needs all the bells and whistles to describe that to me.
Yeah, I can see, I will say this. I really enjoyed the fact that there was a 40-second shot clock.
Yeah, you got to get up there and hit it.
You got to get up there and hit it. The reading putts the putting was a little hokey in and of itself with the green. Like, it was pretty cool, the technology that they had, but at the end of the day, I don't see that. I don't think 20-year-olds are going to start watching the TGL.
Got to be in on the TGL. I'm a big Bay Town golf fan. The Bay, that's San Francisco.
Yeah, they won the first match, Hunt.
The New York team got beat. They don't have anybody from New York. It's not great. All right, we'll step aside for Sports Center. We got a ton to do in hour number 2. Ryan Ramchick's retiring. Saints are interviewing people. Ben Johnson's got set up. Is it with New Orleans? We'll see. Matthew Bruni talking hoops when we come back from Sports Center.
The Hunt Palmer Show.